So I'd like to introduce Ma Devaki, who is the deep disciple from Yogi Ramsuratkumar, who is standing behind her. She gets great support from him. And she's going to spend about an hour to tell us some stories that have happened. You could call them miracle stories. And then after that, she will answer for another hour some questions. I have the questions. And when we start the questions, I call the name and you come and sit next to me and she will answer to your question. Okay?
Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Jaya Guraya. Let me, at the outset, welcome you people wholeheartedly, soulfully, to the holy lotus feet of our Guru Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And I would like to add what he said about this ashram. Those who enter this ashram will not go back empty-handed. That is, Father, the Supreme Divinity, will pour blessings on everyone like rain. Whether they are aware of it or not, it is the truth. It is Satyam, the truth. So this is what he declared. So those of you who have come here, when you leave this place, you will be carrying huge loads of blessings, which will come with you a long way in your life, helping you, guiding you, protecting you. And another thing that I would like to say, without his calling you, you people will not be able to step into this ashram. So the fact that you people are all here, eager to know more about him and his stories, shows that it's a very hearty call and welcome from none other than Yogi Ramsuratkumar himself. Now, just a little introduction, how Yogi Ramsuratkumar behaved. He was very unpredictable. You would never know what he would say next, what he would do next. From moment to moment, we had to go by his will, and he went by his father's will. He would say, every look of his, every gesture he made, every step that he took, every word he uttered is in tune with the whole cosmos. Which means he is a cosmic man, a cosmic God man. There was no ego in him, so a perfect instrument in the hands of the divine. Like the flute in the hands of Lord Krishna. The flute has to be empty so that Krishna can play. He, sometimes he also, if anybody walked into his presence, he knew instantly their past, present, and the future, and the problems they faced, the struggles they were going through. Sometimes he would discuss their problems in detail. Sometimes he won't say a word. And both times he would just pull out a cigarette and start smoking. Sometimes he would smoke the whole cigarette, sometimes only 3/4, sometimes with some people only half, and sometimes with a rare few, he would just light it up and put out. He had his own calculations, known only to himself. But the problems of the people who approached him for relief were solved. And people went back with a happy, satisfied smile. And some 8 people were coming, visiting him. He would know beforehand that so many people were coming. So he would order tea, just like you people are having tea here. It would be 8 people. They would have informed him sometimes, or they would not have informed him. He would get some extra teas as well. And when those people arrived, the number he got and the number of people arrived would be exact. They would match so well. And then he would not serve them from the first to the last. It would look very random. He would call the 4th person first, or the 3rd person, or someone else, and then keep one cup there, and then another person, very, very random distribution. But he had his own order and discipline and reason for it. And if anybody should think it was just tea offered to them and no communication of blessings, and they might offer something to somebody who's sitting next to him, or they would say, no, I don't want so much. He would get angry. For him, every gesture that he made was a communication of blessings, Father's work. So it had to be instantly and uncomplainingly obeyed. Then he would be very happy. So there was no other will at work when people were in his presence. That was an unspoken rule, well understood by people who visited. If they had not understood and did something outside his discipline there, they would be in trouble. So you see, he was a cosmic man, and he knew what he was doing, what he was saying, and whatever he said, whatever he did, even his anger was a blessing. Now, I remember once somebody carried a carrier of food. And that lady was she was Ramana devotee, but she was also devoted to Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and she would come often. And whenever she had some domestic trouble or a problem outside, she would come to him. And that day she had carried a carrier, and there was one vessel carrying that sweet payasam, we call it, the kheer. And then the upma, have you ever heard of upma? It's some kind of, what shall I say, how do you describe? Some delicious meal, okay. So she carried both, and she had put lots of chilies there in the upma. So one was upma with lots of, maybe 13 of them, chilies. The other one was the sweet kheer, payasam. Now Swami, after 1 hour, he made a stand for 1 hour, and then he pulled the carrier near. First he opened the upma, and then he just held it like that. He took the chilies one after the other. He was eating only the chilies and not the upma. All the 13 chilies disappeared into his stomach. Now, this devotee, this lady devotee was horrified. She was thinking, my God, what is he doing? Just to make it very tasty, she had put lots of chilies, and whereas he was taking only the chilies to eat. And then she didn't know what to do. She couldn't do anything about it. She was just standing there watching the whole thing. Then he took the vessel of this sweet kheer, and there were many cashew nuts. Now he picked up one cashew nut. He called her near and gave it to her. Said, eat. And then another. There were about 13, 14 cashew nuts there. One after the other, he took it in hand and gave her. And then he said, this beggar has had both. You can take it back. After she went back, she felt terrible because the cashew nuts landed with her and all the chilies went into his stomach. But she could do nothing about it. She just went back. But all her problems were solved one after the other. And then suddenly it struck her. What? That Swami, when you go to a God man for relief, for solace, he would take the chilies of your life upon himself and give only tasty, tasty cashew nuts to you. A very symbolic act of what he was always doing. And I will tell you another story which I have shared many times with people. When I was visiting him, after the first very deep experience I had, the experience, the euphoria, changed me completely. My whole life changed. It was a turning point in my life. After that, I lost interest in the subject I was teaching, the interest in the students, the interest in the whole life. My only interest was Yogi Ramsuratkumar and the experience he gave me. It was so beautiful, so perfect, and nothing could compare with that. So the mind was automatically going after him. But from the next time onwards, it was not as blissful as the first one. There were many, many times he would chase me out, saying that this beggar is busy, don't trouble this beggar. So this he was doing it many times. So one day, I went to Arunachala temple, and I stood before Arunachala and prayed to him. Look, he doesn't want to see me, but I could not help coming here. It is a very compulsive act on my part because there is no other interest now in life. But he doesn't want me. So what shall I do? Arunachala, you have to help me. He has to change his attitude towards me. So this was my prayer, and then suddenly it struck me in the sanctum sanctorum of Arunachaleshwara, something like start going pradakshina of the mountain, then the circumambulation of the mountain. So I decided I would do it for 48 days. So from next day onwards, early morning 4:30 I would start. From the room, I had taken up a room there, and then I would start. Early morning 4:30. In those days, there was no light anywhere, and the pathway, the mountain path, was full of thorns and stones. And it would be dark, mostly, and very, very lonely also, the pathway. So I would start at 4:30 until about 5:30 it would be dark. But somehow I had the courage to walk alone, chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar all the time. So after 48 days, my feet were in a mess. The thorns and the stones had poked in many places. The blood was oozing out and they looked very ugly. So after 48 days, I went and sat. He allowed me inside. So in that veranda, small veranda of his house, Sanadi Street house, I sat there in a corner, and that day it happened that there was no one else. Swami sat on the stone step near the wooden door, leaning on the wooden door with stretched legs. His feet were so beautiful like lotus. There was no flaw, no scar, as you call it, and no blood spots. And you see, he had walked all over India. I don't know how he could maintain such beautiful feet with all that. He never wore chappals, never wore slippers, but yet they looked so beautiful. And then I looked at my feet. And I thought, my God, how ugly my feet are. How beautiful his feet were. Then I was thinking what to do. It's okay. This ugliness is also ugliness of my soul. And I was just thinking, feeling very bad about my feet. And I didn't say anything. Suddenly, he said, Devaki, they are holy feet. Imagine here, I was feeling terribly low and upset that my feet were ugly after 48 days of Giri Pradakshina. And he turned up with this. He said, they are holy. Now I got the shock of my life. Of course, it filled me with bliss that such a word, a promise should come out of his mouth. But at the same time, I was astounded. Then I understood, a guru can easily change the ugly feet of a devotee into holy feet. The transformation. This is Guru's responsibility and work. Just in 1 second, what was ugly feet for me, and I was feeling upset about it, he changed it. The next minute, it was blissful, and he declared they are holy feet. This is what a guru can do to you, a complete transformation. Another time when I had gone there, again I was seated, and I was just thinking that I had come to Yogi Ramsuratkumar, a great soul, very late in life. I was already 34, when the mind would be set, very difficult to change. Whereas to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all those people who went to him, they were very young. They were in their teens. So Ramakrishna could mold them, shape them into what he wanted. Whereas here I had come to him very late. And I was thinking, how could he transform me? And just then I saw a withered rose in a corner. Immediately I compared myself with that rose. And then I thought, my God, I am like that rose. Now it's already withered. I tell them to keep quiet. So here I was thinking, but withered rose, it's rose, so it has fragrance. So that's okay, maybe that's a consolation for me. And just when I was thinking, his hand stretched out to the rose and he took it in his hand and then he started to smell. So I said, okay, I thought there is still fragrance and the fragrance is useful to him. He is smelling it. So that's very nice. In some way, I could serve. That's what he is indicating. So he kept smelling. And then after some time, maybe an hour, finally he said, this beggar leaves you, Devaki. So I got up, I prostrated before him, and then I was about to reach for the gate. He said, Devaki, 1 minute, come here. And then he dropped that withered rose into my hand. But it was no more withered. It looked a brand new, freshly plucked rose from the plant. Transformation. A withered rose turned into a freshly plucked rose just then from the plant. This is what a guru does. Ugly feet turned into holy feet. A withered rose became a fresh rose. See the role of the guru, the responsibility of the guru. But then the process is not easy. The transformation is not easy. You have to go through many, many hardships. The guru would give test after test after test, most of which I failed, but they were still you see, he's a God man, so he could easily move with men and women in a very simple way so that he would be accessible to us and we could understand and interact with him and benefit from his blessings. At the same time, he's God. He had the power of God and he could transform people with a gesture of his hand, sometimes through simple leelas. Always, always, he came to the rescue of the devotees. He said, this beggar is limited in space and time, as you see, is a form. This form is perishable, but his name, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, is God himself. It has all the power of God. What the name can do, this beggar cannot do. He said, wherever you are, whatever difficulties you get into in life, just call out Yogi Ramsuratkumar and see what happens. My father would rush help to you. He would come rushing to you if only you could call out his name in the times of danger or difficulties or some terrible situations, adverse situations. So this is his promise. Now there are thousands of devotees who live only by his name. And they have all been able to come up in life just by chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And there are stories and stories and stories how he came to the rescue of people in the times of terrible sickness, in the times of dangerous accidents, and sometimes, difficult situations where so much debt, that lakhs of rupees, and then you're not able to pay back, and then the situation is very critical that you'll be thrown into the jail. And there are situations and situations. Human life being what it is, there are sufferings and sufferings. And we get in varieties, and each one's pack of sufferings may be different from the others, but sufferings are there. And Yogiji used to say that every suffering is also a blessing in disguise, because only in sufferings we turn to God, and very seriously at that, very intensely. So every suffering happens for our greater good. So we shall see. Initially we saw how he took up the chilies of life and gave away the tasty cashew nuts. This is what you will see in the stories that follow. As I said, his name, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, is a divine mantra packed with power and grace. Recently, I had gone to Madurai to attend a function. One lady came and she was saying, she was already 46 years, and they wanted a child very badly, the couple, no child at all. And the relatives were also gossiping about it. She felt terrible, and then she started to chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama with great faith. She was chanting. The doctors had already said there was no hope. She was 47, 46, and it was not possible at all. But then she went ahead with great strength and faith. Yogi Ramsuratkumar, 1 year, she kept chanting, 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 and she was writing to me letters also for prayer. And then one fine morning, she found herself pregnant. To her great delight and surprise, a natural pregnancy, when the doctors for artificial insemination, all they had given up. But she conceived very naturally. And then she kept chanting, 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 because the pregnancy should be healthy and it's comfortable. So at the age of 48, 47 she conceived. At the age of 48, she gave birth to a very healthy, intelligent baby boy. Just by chanting the name. And similarly, there was another lady in far down south. She already had 2 daughters, and she became pregnant again. And all the people, including her husband, said, now this time it has to be a baby boy. We already have 2 girls. You know, in Indian household, we get this kind of pressures from people. Then she had no other goal but turned to Yogi Ramsuratkumar. She began to chant desperately, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, may this be a baby boy for me. And she was chanting throughout pregnancy. She was chanting, chanting, chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And every time she would go to the doctor, the clinic, and they would scan and they would see only a baby girl. So many scans, and every time it turned out to be a baby girl, and the doctors finally began to console her, saying, see, okay, these days it's a woman power. The women power is great these days, so it doesn't make any difference. But she would not agree to it because she knew she had to face pressures from other people at home. She said, no, no, whatever you say, my Yogi Ramsuratkumar would not let me down. She was very determined, and she persevered in spite of whatever the reports showed. She kept on and on and on. And just when the time came for delivery, it had to be cesarean, and they took the scan again just 2 hours before. It was still a baby girl. Now the doctors had to prepare her mind, psychologically. So they were saying all kinds of nice things. Okay, don't bother, it's a baby girl, but she would be like a boy to you, or all that. She refused to listen to them. No, my Yogi Ramsuratkumar would not let me down. I've been chanting his name. And then they gave the local anesthesia, and she was still chanting. And finally, when they took the baby out, it was a baby boy. Can you believe it? The doctors were stunned. 2 hours before, in the scan, the picture was still there, it was a baby girl. But just when they took it out, it was a baby boy. And she was besides herself with joy. You can imagine, her joy was boundless. This is the kind of miracle Swami can do.
Can you tell us about the butterflies and the aeroplane?
Yes.
It's a wonderful story, and we can have it on the
Okay, right. Recently again, someone had come from a place called Kallakurchi, I think. He said, Amma, I had to go to Calcutta for some work, and it was the first time I was boarding a plane, and I felt very nervous. I was so scared, and I was going alone. I felt terrible, and then I began to chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama. And when he boarded the plane, just opposite, just in front, up there, he found a butterfly sitting. Can you imagine? In a plane, how a butterfly could enter and sit there right opposite to his, so that he could see. It was there for him to see, just up there. He said, all my nervousness left. That I knew Yogi Ramsuratkumar was traveling with me. He said nobody saw that except him, and the butterfly traveled with him. 36,000 feet, a butterfly sitting there near the luggage, opposite to him, so that he could see it well. And he felt very assured. He felt that Yogi Ramsuratkumar himself was traveling with him. To what extent, to what length, the kindness, the grace of these great mutis would go, we cannot imagine. All that we do is chant his name, that's all, which is not very difficult. But then see the response that we get, the divine response, how reassuring. And he showed me the photograph also. His seat is there, and just opposite, just a little in the front, up there, the luggage where they keep, was a butterfly. So even now, I would like to tell you, in any adverse situation, you feel absolutely helpless, and people fail to come to your help. You just have to scream Yogi Ramsuratkumar and see what happens. How he comes to your rescue. Instantly. It's a great assurance from our Bhagwan. And there are many, many stories about how people got into an accident and still how they escaped unhurt. I think two Germans used to live here. They were Mr. Lee Loswick's students. They're all devoted to Yogi Ramsuratkumar. We have what we call Triveni here, and it's being run for the sake of those foreign students who come and stay. So one Wute and her husband Fokker. They said, especially Wute said, that she was going with her mother through a certain village because father was admitted in a hospital or something, and then she was going in a car, and then at one point there was a vehicle which came in the opposite direction uncontrolled, and she felt terrible because it was too short a notice and there was hardly any time, and in her mind, she did not even scream out. She just called out Yogi Ramsuratkumar mentally, and the vehicle came and stopped just inches away. So that the speed at which it came, we would have all been pulp under the truck. In minutes, we would have been pulp. But what happened was something else. Just a few inches away, the vehicle stopped, and we escaped totally unhurt. So there are reports like this, many, many, many of them. And then, one lady, one fine morning, it was not fine morning that day, 2:00, I received a call from Coimbatore, one lady devotee. She burst into sobs, saying, Amma, please help my husband. You have to save him. Please ask Bhagwan to save. I said, what is happening? You tell me. Early morning, 2:00. Luckily, I get up at 2:00, so when the call came, I was ready. And she started to cry loudly and said, her husband met with an accident, a terrible accident, and there was hemorrhage. And he had to go through a brain operation. Now, after the operation, he did not get back consciousness. And they had put a ventilator also. She said, the doctors called me yesterday and said, just 4 days. Within 4 days, if his consciousness does not return, there is no hope for him. He will leave the body. We cannot assure anything. So they warned her and left her. Now that was the night that she called me and said, Amma, please, you have to do something. Please tell Bhagwan to save him. I didn't know what to do. Just for a minute I was stunned. At 2 o'clock I just got up and then Bhagwan gave me a hint. I said the morning chanting that we do every day, 6 to 7. Very powerful, a huge Shakti, a huge power rises out of the chanting. And I have seen it touch people, bless people. So I said the morning bhajan is there, it must be there. The live bhajans must be there in that Facebook and YouTube and all that. You take that, keep it near the ear of your husband. And you also chant it. You sit by his side and chant. The doctors won't mind because he's in the last stage. And so they might allow this. So immediately she said the same day she kept it for half an hour or 1 hour, I don't remember. But there was no change. He was just lying down like this, like he was in coma. And then again after some time she kept it. This time again she was also singing with that. Nothing happened, he was still in coma. And next day also she continued. And then after she took her, 1 or 2 hours after, there was some movement and he opened his eyes. Now she saw this, she was stunned and she knew that Bhagwan was at work. Bhagwan had started working and then she was chanting vigorously. And then the consciousness returned. The doctor said in 4 days time we have to give back the body. But in 4 days he got discharged from the hospital. And what is more, he was a Muslim. And following that, the next month was December 1st, the Jayanti day. So those people, the couple had come here for the Jayanti. And when I went to Pradhan Mandir, this couple, they were standing in front of Bhagwan's Murti and they were crying and crying and crying so much. I said, why are you crying? You were alive and fit. You look very healthy. He said, no, the kindness we are unable to bear, the kindness that he showed. All we did was to keep the chanting near his ear, and this Nama had gone into him and brought back the consciousness. Now he is healthy, just thinking how much he blessed us, how gracious he is. We cannot control our tears. So you see, in terrible sickness, if you still try this Nama chanting with faith, then you can be sure to bring back life. The life to the... there was one man from Malaysia. He wrote an email to me. All these things happened recently. He said he had a dog, a pet dog. It was there with him for 10 years already. It was the 11th year. And then suddenly the dog became very sick. And it stopped eating and it began to lie down with closed eyes, and the urine was red. The blood was coming out. And no matter how much treatment he managed, still the dog would not respond. And it was just lying down with the eyes closed. And he used to listen to the morning chanting every day. So that day suddenly it struck him that why can't I take it to his ears? So he took this chanting from the cell phone and kept it near the ear of the dog. Only 2 days he kept it. And he says that evening, the second day evening, there was some movement in the body. And after some time, it opened its eyes. And the next day morning, it was standing there. See how it brings life back. The life that was leaving the body was brought back by the sound, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Such is the power and glory of the name, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Thousands of people. We breathe in and out Yogi Ramsuratkumar so that we lead a comfortable life. Even your daily living becomes comfortable, and of course there will be other comforts, more and more comforts that could come to you from your profession, from the relations. You know, the couple, they quarrel and then they divorce. Again, if I tell them to chant, then there's every possibility of their uniting and then reliving together. That is there. And that recently, again, her name is Julia, I think. She's from Yugoslavia. She said, last year she was here for January 1st. We know every year, December 31st, night 9 o'clock, we all gather, some 500 people would gather in the Pradhan Mandir, and then we go round and round and round Bhagwan's Murti, singing Yogi Ramsuratkumar till 12 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, we would stop the chanting and then greet the new year with the Nama. And then we do a little puja, arati, and then distribute prasad. She was here last year. So it was about 1 o'clock or 1:30 when she took the prasad here, and then she was returning. Her room was somewhere near Ramana-Ashram. It was 1 o'clock in the night. There was nobody there in the streets. And suddenly, at one point, she found herself surrounded by several dogs. Already one dog started to bark, and then another joined, and then soon several of them, and they started to chase her. She also started running. At one point, she could no more run, and she found herself, they really circled around. She didn't know what to do. And then, because she was chanting all the time, she said, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And then she said, Amma, it's magic, Amma. In a minute or two, they were barking ferociously. And those ferocious dogs became quiet and they left the place. She came this year also. She said, Ma, his Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, has become my breath now. Because even if one of the dogs should bite, it takes, how many days, how many injections, all that. So, he would be our life companion all the time. He becomes our body God, mind God, intellect God, our very being's guardian all the time, helping us. Helping us, guiding us and protecting us. His name, as Bhagwan said, is very active grace. All that you have to do is chant, but sometimes the karma, because every suffering comes to us in this life because of some past karma. If the karma is heavy and very bad, so when it starts to play up in this life, how things change dramatically. All the people who have been very friendly with us, very nice to us, suddenly they would turn their face away, and then our people would start accusing us or abusing us, and things won't work the way we want. Everything would get delayed, and there will be many obstacles in the achievement of any work. So all these things happen when a negative karma begins to play up. Now those are the moments we need the Nama badly. You have to keep chanting to somehow cross that bad period. It is suffering, yes, because of our bad karma, But the suffering, the intensity of suffering can be lessened by chanting the Nama. Yogi Ramsuratkumar said, the Nama, when you chant, it will slowly reduce the intensity of the karma. In some cases, where the faith is very strong and the devotion is strong, it will instantly remove it. In other cases, it will reduce gradually, and finally you will get the relief. But there will be instant relief because the intensity would be much less. So every Nama, there is a word called atonement. In Sanskrit we say prayaschitta. That is, once you do some bad karma and it's going to play up and that period has started, immediately you start chanting. And every Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar said, no single Nama goes waste. Every Nama does its work of rescuing people from difficulties, from adversities, from very difficult situations. So every time you chant the Nama, be very sure it's reducing the negativities of life. You remember, he took the chilies. So every time you chant his name, you can imagine him taking chilies. And then he will hand over only the fried, tasty cashew nuts. And every withered rose would turn into brand new, freshly plucked rose. This he does in every devotee's life. You don't even have to be a devotee. Anybody who calls out the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar in times of difficulty will be helped instantly. And he also said, when you chant the name, there will be instant presence of the God whose name you are chanting. He said a word and its meaning are inseparable. Rama is the word, Shiva is a word, a divine word, and the meaning of Rama is Rama's presence. The meaning of Arunachala Shiva or Om Namah Shivaya is Shiva's presence. And he said, when you call out to Yogi Ramsuratkumar, my father is instantly present. Instantly is the word. So I was telling day before yesterday to people there, everyday satsang, I said, you have instant tea, instant chai, instant coffee, instant food. You want instant God? Chant the name. It's the age for, we don't have patience. We want everything instantly. So if you want the instant presence of God, the Nama is your choice. Be assured. And if you call out from the depth of your being, he cannot resist. He will come immediately, instantly. It invokes the presence. That is why, and I know, you may not be able to feel the presence, yes, because there is so much world inside us. And like, I often say a mirror, if it has a layer of dust over it, it cannot reflect the object in the front clearly. So the presence is there, but we are not able to feel, we are not sensitive enough to feel the presence. It doesn't matter, the presence is there. And the presence knows what is on your mind, your prayers, your thoughts, your struggles. And whatever is needed by you, it will do the needful. It may not cater to all your wishes, but it will definitely do the needful, especially when you call out to Him in times of crisis, danger, or adverse situations. Now it is 11:30. Maybe you can ask some questions.
we have very many questions ready, but I have a
So we will have another session where I can give you more interesting stories also.
You mean after lunch, you mean? Or another time? Another day?
That we will discuss after this.
Sorry?
After this session,
Yeah.
we will discuss. I'll find out from Kalyani if anyone is coming in the afternoon. Otherwise, we can again gather.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So I have one personal question, because at the moment the Kula Mela is happening in Allahabad. It's the 144th year, so it's a very special one. And yesterday I was given this photograph. It's a little video, maybe you can look. This is a very old man who's come there. He's supposed to be 154 years old, and he certainly looks very ancient. Would you feel to comment about this picture and about something about the male?
I think he's Sitaram Swami. He keeps chanting the Ramna. Sitaram. And it's a tapasya, no? That people all the time thinking of nothing else except God, except the name of God, the Ram Nam, Ram, 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 Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram. It's a great tapasvi. Tapasvi in the sense, he has done, he has absorbed so much of Rama into him. Though his body looks skin and bones, it is Rama inside. From head to foot it is Rama, Shri Rama. 154 years is nothing. The ancient Rama, his ages now. His age is now ages.
And is it possible to know how many years Yogi Ramsuratkumar was when he left?
He's 83. He was 83.
80.
So it's left to the Mahatmas to decide. They can, from the beginning, Bhagavan was saying, don't concentrate on this body is perishable. This beggar is leaving a name, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And when you call out the name, my father will rush help to you. So he was not keen on living for long in the body. And it's freedom. You know, body is bondage. Really. If there is body, it's flesh and blood. And there will be pain here, pain there and all that. So these people, they feel free without body. He said, in the end, this beggar can do much better work without this body. And when I asked him why he was suffering from cancer, because from the beginning, he was doing only service, he was doing service to the whole humanity, and selflessly, because there was no ego self. He was serving the whole of humanity. So why would God punish him with cancer? You know what he said? For some cosmic balance, Father wants this beggar to go through it. Which meant he was taking the sufferings of a whole lot of people upon himself. He was paying back for the sins of the devotees. Because the law of karma is relentless, precise, and doesn't spare even the avatars. Rama and Krishna, they had to do their atonement. Because Rama killed Ravana. Ravana was a Brahmin. So he killed, his whole avatar was meant for killing Ravana, but in spite of that, he had to do atonement for killing Ravana. And similarly, Krishna also had to do it after he killed Narakasura, another demon. So this law of karma is divine justice, and it is unsparing. How is it divine justice? When somebody tortures you by words, by beatings, don't you wish, my God, he must go through the same thing, then he will know what pain he is causing me. right? So he should know what pain he is causing. So in the next birth, the same thing will be meted out to him. And he wouldn't know why he was going through. Just as in this birth we won't know why we are going through a certain torture, but we would have given this torture to somebody in our last birth. So when you have this bad period of terrible suffering, you can be sure that you have done it to somebody. That thought itself will reduce the intensity of suffering, the mental suffering. Now there is justice, that I had done it to somebody, so this must come back to me. If you have only love to give, only love will come back to you. But if you have torture to give people, then you have to go through that. Even a word, a bad word you utter, you can be sure this bad word is waiting around. And at the right moment it will come back to you. Somebody will come and throw it at you and go away. One good word, one kind word to somebody, that will wait around. And then at the right moment when you need it very badly, somebody will come and say a kind word to you. So give love. When we go through the sufferings, we understand it's because of our past karmas. And what else do we understand? We should not do bad karmas in this birth, because they are going to be the adversities of my next life. So it's a warning that whatever you give, you will get back. So we have to be very careful not to hurt anybody physically or by word or by any other means, because they will all come back to us. Some cold-blooded murderer would be born as a worm in the next birth, and he would get crushed by somebody's foot. So many things. You would be surprised what punishment is there for what karma.
You have a list?
There is, the lists are available.
Lists are available.
Some of the scriptures, they list it out.
And cockroaches? Mosquitoes?
Cockroaches must have been bad approaches.
We'd love to see the list.
I don't know, it's a very intricate, very involved list. And there is a Devata, there is a God who is given this particular job. He is invisible, but he is standing next to you, right? Any word you utter will go into your account, your karmic account. He notes it down immediately in his diary, and based upon the karmas that you do in this birth, your next birth will be that where you have to be born, to which parents, in which country, which language. See, it's not by accident that you were born in France, that we were born in India. So everything has its account behind, a karmic account. Yes? Law of?
Newton, Isaac Newton. Newton, he said every action has equal and opposite reaction. Law of motion. So this is also same.
Yes. Certainly.
Can you explain about that? Nuisance, solution, and resolution?
Okay, well, he says, I was telling John David the other day, it struck me one day when I was about to leave a satsang. I was in a hurry to leave without any message for the satsang. Then the people present, they said, I must speak something even for 5 minutes. We have all come to listen to you. And because I had no time that day, every day I was giving satsang. So suddenly it struck me. I said, we start our life in illusion, right? Because we think this Maya world is real world, and the joys and sorrows of it so real to us. So we start with illusion, and we live in illusion until one day God strikes us with an adversity, some great suffering. Then you turn to God for solution. So now you are shifting from illusion to solution, right? So after you get solution, you begin to think of God more and more. And every time a suffering strikes you, immediately you seek God's help and you get solution. Then after some time, you understand, oh, life is full of sufferings. If one suffering gets over, another suffering is waiting to come. So it's all that time it's suffering, suffering. And then you begin, oh, this life is enough. I don't want to be born again. So it comes to dissolution. So from illusion to solution, and from solution to dissolution. Dissolution of what? The ego, which is responsible for our rebirths. Because with the ego, we commit good karmas and bad karmas, and so we invite the next birth. We invite rebirths. So it's a cycle of births and deaths and births and deaths. So if you want to escape from the cycle of births and deaths, if you want to become immortal, eternal, then you need dissolution of the ego. The ego should dissolve. Where? In that supreme awareness. How will it dissolve? You have to start thinking about God. You have to remember God. And remember very deeply and continuously until all that is about ego, all that is ego, will get dissolved in that. So the ego is at the root of all the evil in the world. What is ego? Selfishness. Utter selfishness. So from the ego comes I and mine. I want it for myself. I want to be comfortable. It doesn't matter what happens to this neighbor or that neighbor. As long as I'm comfortable, I'm safe, it's fine. And then the next thing is just a little beyond this selfish I. I want it for my people. So you consider your people and you feel for them. So you go a little beyond selfishness. Now you consider the other people of the family in whom you are interested. But beyond that, we cannot go. My friends, my close friends, my people, I. Very narrow circle, the whole life ends, and then rebirth, and then rebirth, and rebirth, based upon our good karmas and bad karmas. This goes on endlessly. So how to put a stop to it? It's only when the ego dissolves. That's what Ramana Bhagwan says. Find out who this I is. Who am I? Yogi Ramsuratkumar says, remember God. So whether you think of this I or God, you're connecting with that greatest power, that supreme power. When I chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, or Arunachala Shiva, I instantly get connected with that supreme power. So that what's the question that you asked?
Ma, I could share a funny story that's happening right now. So when I came in the morning, I was a bit concerned because 5 months ago I had surgery on my prostate. So it's very successful, but the side effect is that I often have to run to the toilet. So you very kindly arranged your assistant to give the key. So I'm sitting here now for nearly 1.5 hours, and I'm feeling some pressure that I need to go to the toilet. So I'm saying inside, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and I was rather surprised because actually I've never really done that, but it's working now inside my head, but I'm not doing it. I just noticed that this is going on now inside my head, and at the same time, when I see that, the pressure to go to the toilet seems to be less. Maybe it's my fantasy, I don't know, but that's what's happening
it's
right
no
now.
fantasy. And It's a divine, no fantasy, but I think you can go now and.
Maybe I'll run in some time, but at the moment we have so many questions.
Yes,
Would you like? So can I invite the people to come here? So
yeah,
that,
yeah, please. Please
so
suit yourself.
the first one is Indira.
Come.
So Indira's question. In the first interview we did a few years ago, you mentioned having a powerful glimpse after meeting Yogi Ramsuratkumar for the first time. This experience lasted several weeks, but several days, but eventually it faded. After that, did you have other experiences, or did your awakening happen gradually over time?
Okay. See, that experience was so huge, it doesn't happen easily at all. One has to slog, to get such an experience. It's because I had read about Ramana and his teachings, and all the time the longing was there inside me for such an experience, because when you read about it, it's something else. It is somebody's experience, somebody's truth. Unless I experience it, will not be my truth. So you need to experience it to make it your truth. So the longing was there all the time, but when I met my Bhagwan, my master Yogi Ramsuratkumar, the experience happened. So it lasted about a week, I think, maximum 7 days, 10 days at the most, when all my faculties had sharpened also. I had extraordinary, I found that as I was at once a witness and a participant. I was still going to the classes and I was teaching very, very difficult subjects like mathematical physics and quantum mechanics, which needed a lot of preparation before going to the class. I was teaching MSc students. And to my great surprise, I used to prepare for 2 hours, 3 hours before I went to the class, before I met Yogi Ramsuratkumar. But after this experience, just half an hour I would gallop through some portion, and if I went to the class, I would take up some. Previously I had to work out the sum before I went to the class. Now here I would take up some problem and start working out. It was as though my hand was writing it down step after step to perfect answer. It was not that I put my mind to it, my brain to it. It was happening very naturally and automatically, and I was watching. I was at once a witness and I was the participant doing that. That was the experience that stayed with me for some time, say about 10 days. But after that, it began to fade and the old defects of the ego self returned. Getting angry with students if they behaved very stupidly and getting upset over something. All this feeling, the joy of attaining something. All that happened. The whole spectrum of emotions returned. They were absent before. When the euphoria lasted, everything was only a detail that got recorded. It was only a registration of details during that period when I went through that experience. But after that, I started to react. It was no more a detail. You understand that?
I mean, in our community,
yes.
we have a number of people who had also
This experience.
Something like that. But usually after a few days or maybe a week, it fades away. And then they want to know how they can bring this back. So I think her question is, any advice about it coming back, or gradually to welcome it back?
It doesn't happen naturally, gradually. Whatever induced that experience, you have to go back to that. If it is some sadhana, then you have to continue doing that sadhana, and more vigorously and rigorously, so that you come to the experience again. For me, my meeting with the great master was the reason for it. So I started to go to him. You see, I was longing for that experience, and he became the embodiment of that experience, so I could not keep myself away. No matter how many times he chased me out, he treated me harshly, I had to come back and stand there outside his residence. It did not matter to me, but I had to come back. So, whatever induced that experience, you have to go back to it and continue doing it until you get established in the experience.
So one afternoon, Indira drank a cup of coffee, and after something happened, and then she thinks, I did something. And now she's been around John David, poor woman, for many, many years, and perhaps she wants to comment about that.
Drinking coffee.
Did you consciously do something? No. So this is what happens. That is, the Guru Tattva, the Supreme Divinity, it comes in the form of Guru Tattva, the principle, Guru principle. The Guru principle is at work all the time. And these great God-men, through them, the Guru principle works. And the Guru principle is responsible for our experiences. So the Gurus themselves may not be conscious of this happening, but it is the divine. Suppose the Guru is an ordinary Guru, not capable of divine power or anything, but if the disciple is still very devoted to the Guru and have enormous faith in the Guru principle will work. You understand what I mean? And the Guru principle will work, and to the disciple, it is the form of the Guru. But it is Guru Tattva that is at work. Because of your faith in the Guru principle will work. So such experiences happen because of that.
It's very, very interesting to...
But in my case, Yogi Ramsuratkumar did it consciously, and he continued, and then there were times I got it back, but then it was off and on. And then one day he said, if I give you that, if you get established in it, you will not do any work. And you have come here to do this beggar's work. So even if I closed my eyes, he would say, Devaki, no need for meditation. You have to do this beggar's work. So he had the key.
It's very interesting to observe. You know, we've had our community for, I think, 22 years. And I would say 3 or 4 people had this experience. They can't leave the community. They can't leave John David. And they are, in a way, the most devoted and the most hard-working people from our community. Can you maybe say something about that? You can ask this lady. She can't leave me.
Very good. Continue. Why should you leave him? He's the origin. You came to him and then this happened. And the Guru Tattva is working through him for you. There's no need. The thing is, as things happen, they are harmless. You start reacting to that, then the trouble starts. It's okay if she doesn't want to leave, fine, leave it. But why she doesn't want to leave? Why should she stay here? You know, we start questioning, the trouble starts. Anything you observe and register as a detail and leave it at that, no harm. You understand what I mean? Yes. Yeah. So it remains as a thought, but then you add another thought, another thought. The thought multiplies, then landing us in trouble.
But what's very interesting is to observe over 20 years, many people came, many people left. But these people who had this energetic moment didn't leave or couldn't leave. And they became the most devoted servants of the work our community is doing. Because we're doing books and such things, we're trying to put out into the world.
So that is why it happened.
And now she's the main organizer of the community.
That's right. She had come for that work. She has come only for that work, so that work must happen. So the experience happened and now she's doing that work. See, everything happens only by God's will. Everything in everybody's life is preordained and it happens by the will of God. It's not as though she has free will to choose. She is doing what she is meant to do. It's a divine will. So it's not as though that we choose and then do something. Though it appears so, it appears as though we have free will, but the free will is pre-willed by God.
Okay, maybe another question?
Yes?
Kailash. So Kailash's question is, it is very difficult for me to trust in life. How can I better play the cosmic dance?
How can I better?
Better play the cosmic dance.
You want to play. The cosmic dance is going on already. The whole life as you see it is the cosmic dance. They are the cosmic gestures of Lord Shiva, the divine that's going on. Any movement is Shiva's dance, cosmic dance. Anything that you're able to walk and you see a bird flying, you see a worm moving, they're all dance of Shiva. This is what Yogi Ramsuratkumar taught me through a very simple leela. I think I've already narrated that, so I don't have to go into it. But he showed me even the movement of a leaf is dance of Shiva, because Shiva is not just a figure, Shiva is the all-pervasive supreme consciousness. It is stillness. When the stillness moves, everything in the creation moves. So, behind the manifestation is the sound. And the sound happens only when the molecule moves. Sound is just the movement of a wave. You understand what I mean? So Om is the primordial sound out of which the whole cosmos was born.
May I say something very quickly? I live in Switzerland. In Switzerland, there is a Central European for Nuclear Research. When you enter into the building, there is a Lord Shiva statue.
Yes, good. Nataraja. Not just Shiva, it must be the Nataraja in a dancing pose. Right. So somebody had understood the principle behind it.
So when you think, what is your reflection between Lord Shiva dancing cosmics and quantum physics?
See the nuclear particles? We have an atom. An atom has a nucleus and protons outside. And then again, we go deeper into that. And finally, I think the quasar and something, there are different names now. The minutest particle, the fundamental particle they call it, right? And it's always in motion. To the surprise of the nuclear scientists, they find that it is in motion. It naturally fits in with the theory of our ancient rishis. To them, there were no theories, they were their experiences. So, movement alone causes a sound. The sound can be heard or cannot be heard. For example, our ears, they are capable of hearing only from 20 cycles per second to 20,000 cycles per second. Any sound below 20 cycles per second or beyond 20,000, we cannot hear, but the sound will be there. We cannot hear by the limitation of our ears. But what does it show? Everything is in motion. So the nuclear particles themselves are in motion. So Shiva's dance starts there. So the whole cosmos is on the move, and that's because the still consciousness, the supreme consciousness which is ever still, there's a movement. We call it chalanam, Arunachala. Arunachala. It means this is the non-moving, still consciousness of Shiva, symbolically. But when that consciousness makes a small movement, the whole cosmos moves. Right from the nuclear particle, right from the fundamental particle to the huge oceans. Everything, the planets, the galaxies. You know, that still consciousness of the Supreme, this one thought, I want to create. Let there be creation. Galaxies rolled out, planets rolled out, you and I rolled out. Just one thought. In the stillness of the mind, there is so much power. That's why Ramana Bhagwan says, okay, you have to practice to get to be in silence. Silence of the mind. Silence of the mind is emptying the mind of thoughts. Get rid of these thoughts. Thoughts keep multiplying. That is, multiplication of thoughts is Maya. Stillness of the mind is the divine, the supreme divine. So in a mind which is still, there is the power of God. Even any single thought would materialize immediately. That's how Satya Sai Baba materialized, you know. You just have to think of a diamond necklace and it will come into your hand. The thought has so much power, it would materialize.
I have a very strong question. I never could find the answer to this question. But you are a scientist and you're a spiritual person, very deep for both. So when my daughters were still inside their mother, through the ultrasound, we could see the cell. And in the cell was a black spot, and it was vibrating. Can you tell me how it starts to vibrate?
The divine will. The divine has designed the human body in such a way that the body has to go through a process for creation. Every molecule in your body is on the move. The whole body is a bundle of moving particles. The movement is life. Your breath, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. It's on the move all the time. It's motion. Your breath stops, either you are in samadhi or you are a dead body. So right from the breath, it's movement. Every particle of your body is on the move. So how can the fetus not move?
How is the first movement starting?
Movement stops.
How does the first movement start?
Start.
I understand what you're
No,
saying.
it's a okay. Well, you take your eyes. Why do you blink like this? How does this movement start? How does a thought occur to you? And thought is in motion all the time. It's a stream of thoughts. One thought after the other. The thought itself is on the move. So, it's not just you take one thing out of the whole body and say, why does it move? Your whole body, everything is on the move. How does a thought move? The thought comes to you and then you speak it out and then it goes and spreads to people. Everything is on the move. Your heartbeat, up and down, laptop. Nowadays it is laptop. We've got so addicted to that. So the heart now it's laptop.
Casper?
I don't know if you got the answer for...
You're blessing the answer.
What was your question?
I have no question.
Right, very good. See, that's what, I will tell you one story now. When Papa Ramdas initiated Swami Sachidananda into Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Swami Sachidananda started to chant it as much as possible. And then he began to develop, so many questions occurred to him. And then he would write it down very carefully so that the next meeting with Papa Ramdas, he would put all those questions. But Papa Ramdas started to avoid him. He always knew if Sachidananda Swami was coming this side, he would go a long way out of it. And soon Sachidananda Swami found out that Papa Ramdas was avoiding him, taking a longer route. And then one time he would decide, he would be very determined to confront Papa Ramdas with his questions. So that time Papa Ramdas thought, okay, enough. Now I will meet him and tell him. So Papa Ramdas was there. Sachidananda Swami was very happy that he could meet with Papa Ramdas. And then he was about to start the question. Papa Ramdas said, wait. As long as you get your doubts and questions, it means you are not chanting the name properly. You are not chanting the mantra properly. You have to chant the mantra properly until the questions and doubts disappear. You understand that?
It works, because I still see this is going on in my head, but I don't need to go to the toilet. I'm not chanting, but the chanting is going on. Like a little...
all our thoughts, they happen. We don't think, though we say oftentimes, I was thinking this, I was thinking that, I was talking. The thoughts happen, the words happen, the deeds happen. This is the fundamental truth of life. Then I have to go back to the teachings. That is, inside all of us, that supreme power is what we call Chaitanya, the supreme consciousness. It's the supreme power, the supreme intelligence is inside. We call it Chaitanya. Your every breath is rooted in the Chaitanya, the in-breath and out-breath. Right? So, this Chaitanya is sustaining your breath. You are not sustaining your breath. You don't even know when the breath will stop. The Chaitanya is sustaining. The Chaitanya put the breath in the first place and keeps it going and is sustaining it. And the Chaitanya created your body in the first place. Can you say you created it? Just think of the structure of the eye, how sophisticated it is, how fine it is. Who created it? Now you have a whole department of science for studying the eye. And you see how intricately they play, the various parts of the eye placed. Take the nose, how beautifully designed. Take the ear, how beautifully designed. Every part of your body so thoughtfully designed, so much discipline, rhythm, beauty and function. The divine, the supreme intelligence has designed everything. And he has designed this robot. And he is the divine operator. He puts some applications in you, some applications in him, some applications. You know you can do it. You can download any application you want. So applications can differ from phone to phone. Like this, each robot, you put some applications in one robot that's meant for domestic service. You put some applications in one robot which can be put to use in an office. So you can create robots with different purposes and choose applications accordingly, but the divine operator is the same. So the divine operator, that is Chaitanya, is within all of us, not only the humans, within the stone, the worm, the mosquitoes that trouble us so much, every creature in the whole cosmos. And it is designed your body, it has put the breath there, and it is sustaining the breath, and because of the breath in the body, your brain is functioning. And you think that you are running your life, all the details of your life from the brain, but the brain itself can be alive, active, only if there is breath in the body, and the breath is sustained by the Chaitanya. So the Chaitanya, the supreme divinity inside you, is the real doer. You get thoughts according to the function you are going to do in this life. So each one's thoughts, each one's gender, the thoughts we get, the words that we form, the actions that we do, we are not doing. It's automatic, like a robot. The divine operator is playing your role, his role, and all the roles here. And we, the divine has put this ego, the Maya, in us, so we think that our brain is running our life. But remember, the minute the life breath leaves the body, the brain is dead. It cannot run a single detail of your life. So who is behind the breath, which is behind the brain? The Chaitanya, the supreme divinity. So it's a drama. It's a drama, Bhagwan used to call it world show, which goes on from eternity to eternity, where that supreme divine playing every role. It plays the role of a worm, it plays the role of a mosquito, it plays the role of cockroach, it plays the role of you and me, yours and mine. It is one man show. He is the hero, he is the villain, he is the heroine, he is all the sub-characters in the drama, he is the stage, he is the costumes, he is the dialogue, and he is the audience. It's one man show from eternity to eternity.
So I have a question. Recently the scientists are developing artificial intelligence, and there was an argument between two scientists. One said we have to be very careful with divine intelligence because it could threaten human beings. And the other scientist said that it doesn't matter because maybe the robots will take over from the humans and they are the next level. Would you like to comment on about that?
See, we are already robots and we are doing enough harm in the world. The robots, you just think of all those people, the dictators who ruled, who sent people on genocide, right? All the harms that are happening in this world today, the robots have taken over. We are the robots. And we have taken over, we think that we are doing, and then we think and plan and do it. But behind it is the divine will, that such things should happen in Kali Yuga, and those things are happening, right? So this is another generation of robots, that's all. But even those robots are under the control of the divine will. Remember, if the divine wills that they take over, they will take over. If the divine wills, okay, it's enough, we will return to the first, what you call Satya Yuga, they will all stop. Something will happen in a worldly way where the whole thing will come to a naught. So there is no meaning in fearing anything because we think that we are doing everything. We feel this insecurity also. If you know that everything is functioning because of the divine will has everything under its control. The whole Maya world is in the control of the divine. The divine knows when to stop something, when to start something. It may start a new Maya in the name of artificial intelligence, it knows how to put an end to it also. So we don't have to bother about the world. We have to bother about ourselves, how to come out of this Maya and know the truth of creation, the truth of the divinity.
It's very beautiful. I'm going to send it to those two scientists.
Because the divine is inside. See, did you create your body? No. Why do you call it your body? What role you have in creating this body? And did you put the breath in it? Why do you say it's my breath, my life? You are not sustaining your breath. In fact, if the divine is not inside, this is a dead body and it will start decaying. The very fact that we are all alive and breathing now is because of the presence of the divine inside. And we don't understand anything about it. And we create artificial intelligence. Already this intelligence is doing a lot of harm. So by creating artificial intelligence, we will create artificial harm. The artificial evil. But that doesn't matter, it is God's worry because He is running the show. And you and I are acting according to His will. And you and I are not acting at all. He is playing your role and my role and all the roles. So He is playing the role of the artificial intelligence. So He has it under control. Whatever He wills will happen. So that is it. We don't have to worry. It's like, when you go to a mango tree, if there is a delectable mango hanging there, you just pluck and eat it and be done with it. Instead you stand there, oh, how many branches are there? How many leaves are there? We go into a research of the leaves and the branches and this. What use is it? If you pluck the mango and eat it and enjoy eating it and be done with it, fine. But just by counting the number of branches, the number of leaves, where is it going to leave you? So, our God-man tells you that don't indulge in unnecessary research. Like Papa Ramdas told Swami Satchidananda, these doubts and questions that come to your mind because you are still in Maya. You chant the name properly, the questions will disappear, the doubts will disappear, and you will know the truth behind all this. So if you want to know the real truth, you have to go inward. Go inside deeper and deeper and deeper and find out the fundamental truth behind all this. There you have the answer for every question. Any other answer will be no answer. It's again a Maya answer. It will change. Yogi Ramsuratkumar, we have to go now. 12:30, these people. I don't know, just find out? No. Okay. Well, we can continue. Okay.
Is it okay for you? Okay. We have so many questions.
It's okay for me because it's okay for you. You are still sitting here. No, wait.
So we watched your film last night, and after the film, everybody made questions. Okay. So many questions. So the next question is from Caspar. He's Caspar. When I have a feeling or intuition about something, how can I know if it is coming from my mind or from the self?
Which self?
The self.
Ego self.
No, not ego self.
Mind as ego self, and the self is
the real self.
Yeah.
The divine self is there, the ego self is there. The ego self is the mind. The mind itself is the ego self. The immediate expression of ego is the mind with thoughts. The divine self has no thoughts. It is pure awareness. Right? So all thoughts come to you only from the Maya of the mind. If a thought should come to you, a thought comes within the realm of Maya. Either that, or you think that everything about you, like because the divine Chaitanya is sustaining you, it has put the breath in the body, and it is sustaining it. So the brain is working. So every thought that comes into the brain happens. It is as per the role you have to play, the role that the divine is playing through you. There, you can say every thought comes from the source. If you just pull out one thought and you want to know whether it's from the divine or from Maya, any thought is only in the realm of Maya. Either that, or if you have realized the truth, then every thought, word, deed come from the source. You understand that?
I think so.
The mind is a bundle of thoughts. There is no reality to it.
Divya's question: when I meditate by silent sitting, I often feel like I'm falling in the middle of something dark, which feels very soft and familiar. Is this what happens when I come to surrender and devotion?
What connection? Listen, the darkness that appears in the meditation, it's a stage of meditation, right? You haven't perfected your meditation. It's a stage on the way to perfection. Now, there is so much world inside us already, and we are struggling to get rid of this worldliness and trying to reach out the realm of God. And that meditation is a practice for that. Now, there will be darkness, dark spots there in the meditation, because you have not got rid of your darkness completely. There will be light because you have also received some knowledge about these things. So, there is what we call sattva, sattvic nature, rajasic nature and tamasic. We are a combination of sattva, rajas and tamas. This tamas is darkness, rajas is red and sattva is white. So they make some combinations. In meditation you come across different kinds of light with different colors. You don't have to go into the research of all that. What we need to know, whether we are still on this side or the other side, right? So until you come to the experience we were talking about, the blissful, peaceful, thought-free state of awareness, everything is only Maya. Till the last step, it is still the realm of Maya. It's only after the jump you come to reality. In the dream, every detail of the dream is real. You feel hungry, you need food, the dream food to appease your hunger. If you are thirsty in the dream, you need dream water to appease your thirst. And I was just telling them day before yesterday to someone that in the dream, you go through a forest, a lion suddenly pounces on you, you feel so terribly frightened, you scream and you wake up. Once you wake up, none of the details of the dream exist, right? Then you understand that you have only dreamed. And in the dream everything was real, but once you wake up, it has become a dream. Then you realize, like that in the states of meditation, all the experiences we get, they still belong to the dream state. It's only when you come out, you come to the real state. So what is the problem? You want to get rid of the darkness, you have to push ahead. You don't bother about the lights that come to you, the dark spots that come to you. Your concentration must be only on the divine with which you started. It should be one-pointed. We should not even pay attention to the experiences, visions that we go through. They are only, what do they call it, the pointers. We have signposts. So the experiences that we get, the visions that we get, they are all signposts to say where you stand in meditation, that's all. Even that is still in the realm of Maya, because you may think, okay, I'm in a very bad state, and the next moment it may be a jump to one of the higher states. Divine will. Whatever is meant for you to happen, that will happen. So that is why we should be focused completely on the goal and not be sidetracked by anything that we see. This is what Yogi Ramsuratkumar taught me, that don't be distracted by the experiences and visions that you get in the meditation, because they are as much Maya as this is Maya. They are all in the realm of the mind. We have to go beyond the mind. Going beyond the mind is the goal. So why do we get caught up with what is the meaning of this, what is this research? Any research is in the realm of mind. Instead you pray to God, please take me to the goal. Let me not be sidetracked. You are not convinced. You still want to know what is that dark spot. What is your question? You please tell me so that I understand.
What is the state where I'm in when I meditate and see this?
What is the state in which?
Is this a kind of when I surrender or get in devotion, happens this, that I got this darkness?
Now I understand. Whether it is surrender or devotion, it's not in your hands. You understand what I mean? If it is meant that you surrender to the will of God, if it is already on the card, if it is in the blueprint of your life, then the surrender will happen automatically. So, as long as you identify yourself as the body, that you say I with the biodata, what should I do? You just to do what you have been doing. If it has to change, it will change automatically. The thing is, we have to stop researching. What do you do? Because devotion doesn't happen, by effort. The devotion must happen by God's will. So we can only pray. Prayer we can do. Pray for surrender. Pray for devotion. Pray for clarity in thinking. Pray for progress in meditation. So prayer is the best sadhana for getting these states. It doesn't happen by any particular effort. Of course, you have to make effort, but let the effort be a prayer to the divine. Because in prayer, your ego is at its lowest, so the grace would enter. To the extent the ego is assertive, to that extent grace backs out. But in prayer you say, I'm helpless, I do not know, I do not understand anything. Please give me the clarity as to what I should do. Pray, and in some rare moment, in a flash, you will know what you have to do. Otherwise, no matter how much I tell you what to do, what not to do, it would only be instructions you may not connect with. Whatever led to this experience, that you continue and cross this. Any meditation, I tell you, is automatic. It is divine control, divine oriented, and it's an automatic. Please come. He helped me when I was in Montana. This couple brought lots of idlis and sambar and chutney there, Montana. And they fed us all there. We have an ashram in Montana run by Sri Purnaji.
Perhaps you can teach us how to make idlis before you come. We need some lessons to make idlis. Another question is possible? Or?
So devotion, you have devotion already. Otherwise you won't get tears. You have the longing for the divine, right? You just pray and the longing will deepen and sharpen. Right? That you feel that you are helpless, you are stranded, and the divine will lead you on. Not to worry. All that you have to do is pray to the divine. And the divine will work, because the divine is already working, that's why you are getting this. The divine has put the breath in you, and the breath is active, and you are getting the state. Meditation is also an act of brain, The brain concentrates on one high goal. I will talk to you later.
Have you got time for another question? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so
12:30 anga porala. You continue pannalama.
Alberto?
Okay.
Kailash, translate. So his question, I should tell you that now he lives in Canada, but when he lived in Colombia, Colombia, he was a Catholic priest. Now he's not a priest. His question is, God, why does he allow the pain and suffering of his children? The Palestinian people are being killed. Doesn't God protect those people? Where is God?
Good. This is the question often asked by people in different ways. Now, I will just, Amma, please, because it's falling down. Don't distract me, I pray to you. See, I will just give you one example. This Paramahamsa Yogananda, you've heard of him? One day, his devotees in America had called him to attend a function. So when he was standing there, a couple came with a newborn baby, probably 1 or 2 months old. And then with great hope and prayer, they handed, they were very happy they got a baby, and they handed the baby over to Paramahamsa Yogananda. He took it, and then there was a shudder, there was a shiver running through him, and immediately he gave the child back to the couple. Now one of the disciples noticed it, the others hardly noticed, and they thought he had blessed the child. And then in the privacy of their room, the disciple put the question, Master, I saw you shivering, I saw you trembling, and then you handed over the child immediately. What happened? Paramahamsa Yogananda says, as soon as I got the child, I knew it was a cold-blooded murderer in his last birth. Had done many murders. He was a cold-blooded murderer, and I could not carry those vibrations in my hand, the vibrations about him. But for all appearance, it was an innocent child of just 2 months. And it brought immense happiness to the parents because they did not know the details. They would know after some years what kind of wicked person they have for their son. So, the children, we see them as children, but they have their past. And we do not know what they had done in their past birth. So, even though they are children in this birth, getting killed, they would have killed the children in their last birth. And they pay for it in this birth. You understand what I mean? It is their bad karma that has led to getting killed as children in this birth. From human justice, it's something terrible. but there is divine justice behind it. And the divine justice is the law of karma. The child must go through the pain of being killed so that his karma will get over. He had given this terrible suffering to children in his last birth. Unless the soul goes through the same experience of pain, it cannot progress spiritually. As long as many bad karmas are inside, it will be very difficult to concentrate, do meditation. That's why people struggle. People struggle in spiritual life because of so many vasanas, so many bad karmas inside. Unless the bad karmas and also the good karmas get over, it's difficult to stay put in God. Especially a wicked person with many bad karmas to his account would find it very difficult to concentrate on God. So if you forget remembrance of God, you can be sure your karmas are behind it. So accordingly you have a wandering of mind, and the wandering would not allow you to rest in God. So the children getting killed, or any suffering for that matter, is the suffering that we have given to somebody in the previous birth or one of the previous births. And they are taken out on us in this birth. Every suffering that we go through in everybody's life, it has a bad karma behind it. And the joys of life have good karmas behind it. But finally, the account must get completely empty. The good karmas and the bad karmas must get exhausted so that there will be no birth, there will be only blissful, peaceful awareness. There is so much about the past lives we do not know. And we do not know the future. We see only a slice of life in the whole evolution. And so, just seeing what we see and hearing what we hear, you cannot sit in judgment on God. In fact, you don't exist at all, except as a tool, as a robot in the hands of the divine operator. I don't know whether you understand this.
But maybe I could say, as I understand, maybe the whole world is very disturbed by what's happening between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The land used to be the Palestinians, and the English gave it half to the Palestinians and half to the Israelis. And since many, many years, the Israelis are gradually...
I know the history of that,
yeah.
But it's all human history. You understand? It's all human history, human recorded history. Whereas, what was before that, or what would be after now, we don't know. In the scheme of evolution, this is only a stage. And it is human law and human view that judges all these things. But that's why I keep saying the law of karma is divine justice.
Because in all the universities in America and Europe, the young, intelligent people are campaigning against the Israelis. The American government supports the Israelis. And this thing is getting worse and worse.
Never mind. Finally, what will happen according to the will of God. And that would be the best. See, Yogi Ramsuratkumar taught me one thing which is very, very important to life. He said, whatever happens at any moment in life is the best that can happen to you at that moment. Because it is run by God. And whatever comes from God is the best that can happen to us, and it is justified. So this is something that we have to practice. Whatever happens at any moment in my life is devised by God, and it's the best that can happen to me at this moment. So you accept it. How will you accept it? It's coming from the source, it's coming from God, so it's got to be a blessing. Accept it as a blessing even though you do not know what kind of blessing it is. Even if it is very negative and very painful, it's coming from God, and therefore it's got to be a blessing. And once you look upon it as a blessing, you will see how it ends as a blessing, how it turns into a blessing. That is the secret behind it. Because finally, we are forced to come to the truth that there is only God, nothing else, no one else. You have to finally come down to this truth. So, as long as you think there are others and others and others, until the others go away, the otherness goes away, you will be suffering and you will be raising question after question after question for which you will not find answers. But once you begin to focus on God, you will see how the questions disappear, because the questions themselves are based upon Maya, and Maya won't exist. It's like you have a screen and the movie is running. And in the movie, you get so involved. When the hero enjoys something, you enjoy with him. And when some cruelty happens to the hero, you cry with him. All right, the movie comes to an end. And the movie stops, and you also get up and go. And what remains is the screen. Nobody is interested. If the screen is not there, the movie will not go on. You cannot watch the movie. But the movie has a beginning and an end, whereas the screen is there all the time. The screen is the supreme divinity. It is a sea of consciousness. It's an ocean of consciousness. And in the consciousness, things appear and disappear. Like a bubble in the ocean. You know, a bubble comes up, it lives for a little while, and then it breaks. So all these lives, you and me, and whatever is going on in history, we're all bubbles in Maya. And we will not be there after some time. And then there will be new people, new generation coming up. Everything is Maya. It's just the movie appearing on the screen. Now, just think, after the movie is over, was there any reality that the hero in the movie suffered, but was there any true suffering? Then you say, well, why did I cry with him? It's only a movie. He was acting out a role. Why did I cry with him? There is no reality. When the hero suffered, he did not really suffer. He was acting out a role. And what's more, you were really suffering. You suffered with him. But after the movie is over, when you look back, there is clarity in thinking, okay, it was only a movie and he did not really suffer. Right? Yes?
But what is then the difference between passion or compassion? The difference between compassion and having that is so difficult to be or to have.
Compassion and what?
I couldn't hear him.
Compassion.
Yes.
Having compassion and at the same time being somehow accepting that.
That's a thing. See, we misunderstand things. The compassion will grow with reality. You know, when you understand that all this is Maya, then you understand that your ego is Maya. And what is ego? Likes and dislikes, preferences. I have love for some people, I have hatred for some people. But once you go nearer and nearer to God, your love will expand, and finally it will include the whole creation into it. You understand? So the compassion grows to include the whole humanity in its embrace. Whereas in Maya, I have preference, likes only for some people, and to what extent? The minute they turn against you or the minute they make some adverse comment, you don't like them anymore. Have you not experienced? As long as your friend keeps praising you, in harmony with you, is a friend. One day you hear somebody coming and saying, oh, he was making an adverse comment about you. That moment you develop, a doubt, and your compassion or passion or love begins to waver. Right? Because everything depends upon the ego. The ego wants praises all the time. Those who praise you, they will be your friends. Those who criticize you will be your enemies. Whereas the true compassion, the true love happens when you go nearer, deeper and deeper into the self, the divine self inside. Your consciousness, which is limited, will expand and expand. And finally it will become limitless, boundless. The whole world is yours. If a mosquito should bite me on the back, though I can't see it, I will know immediately there is a bite and there's pain. Immediately my hand would go and relieve it, So similarly, these God-men, they don't have to be related to them, they don't have to praise these people. Anywhere in the world, any difficulty, automatically they would know and they would go there and help. They don't have to be related to people because there are no others. Everything that exists is they themselves. If somebody should suffer, they are suffering. Nothing is apart from the self. Now she's gone to beautiful sleep. I don't know how many of you have switched off already. So then what yes, I'm coming to that. See, if it is very difficult for you to understand the totality of it all, then wherever the suffering is, if you cannot do any physical help, just stay put in your place and pray for them. You can offer your prayers for their release from suffering. No one is stopping you. Your prayer will matter to God. It may change His will. See, when the devotees come, they come because they are suffering in different ways. Then I tell them to chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama and pray to him that at some Nama the suffering leaves. They feel happy and uplifted. They get rid of their suffering. Say, Amma, I no more suffer, Amma, everything has become all right now. They come back and tell me happily. So the prayer, wherever you are, you can pray to God for the welfare of those people, for the safety of those people. I was making prayers for 4 years during this Corona time, 2020. I started to make a prayer for the entire world. And I still do it, but I don't do it openly and loudly. There are women who suffer in endless ways. So just wherever you are, you can pray for them. There are children who suffer. You pray for the children. Your prayer is selfless, so it matters to God and God will respond.
Do you have time
What
for
is,
sorry.
1 minute. What is spirituality? To the extent you are unselfish, to that extent you are being spiritual. Yes, please.
Well, do you have time for another question?
I think so. Now you people have
so
to eat
Bhagit.
So pray. Your prayer will also give you peace of mind and it will help those people.
Thank you.
Birgit's question, what to do when the layers of fear make it difficult to experience your inner self?
Prayer. Chant the name and pray. In fear, we hold on to something, which is very strong and which is security for us. So, God is our only security. So, hold on to God and say, pray, Bhagwan, please remove this fear from me. And do the chanting of the name intensely and pray and see what happens. That's the only way you can do it. Either that or you reason out. If you are an intellectual type, then you reason out. Why do I fear? What is there to fear? All that, once you reason out, then you say that there is nothing to fear, that you are imagining things. And once you think that you are imagining, it's like, see, for example, you look through the window, the backyard, it is dark everywhere, very little light is there, and then there is something like a snake on the clothesline. Then you think it's a snake, and then you feel that fear, no? Oh, it's a snake, and it's moving because it's swaying in the wind. Now, what? It's a snake. And then you take a torch, and then from there, from where you are, you just do that, and then you see only a rope. The minute you understand it's only a rope, the fear leaves. But as long as you imagined a snake in it, you feared. But a snake is a snake of your imagination. Understand? In truth, it's only a rope in the shape of a snake. So the minute you realize that your fear has no basis, the fear will leave. So you reason out. Or if you cannot reason out, pray. Hold on to the feet of God and pray intensely, and you will see the relief coming.
Another question?
Okay, I think so.
Dominique. So quite recently, Dominique had an opening. It's changing his life, I think. I know I'm helpless and everything is happening without me, but there still is the experience to be me. Is there something to be done about it?
It's a transition, from the ego self to the divine self. It's a pathway, and you are in the journey. So there is a lot of you remaining there, and this you as the ego self will be giving trouble like this. It will raise questions unnecessarily, whereas you don't bother whether it is your experience, whether the me is experiencing or it's divine, don't bother. You have to set your mind on the final goal, the final state, and push ahead. If you get stopped at one question, one doubt on the way, it will take a lot of time. Your journey will be delayed. That's why in Hinduism, people don't encourage questions. They say you experiment, experience. They don't encourage questions, because once you start questioning, you feel tempted to question everything, and every question will be only from the mind, whereas you have to go beyond the mind. So whatever you have to do, that you have to do to go beyond the mind, whereas by raising questions you are stopping yourself in the mind. You understand that? Okay. So avoid all these questions. Whatever practice you have been doing, you go, do it more intensely, push ahead. Any question will be only from the mind. If you want to stop in the mind, okay. Be there, take your, like we have the lounges on the way, take rest. And you sleep off and then you wake up and find so much time is gone already. My God, why did I stay put? So go on. The mind will put up resistance because you want to kill the mind. So the mind, how will it put up resistance? By raising unnecessary questions. Okay, next.
Next question. Jochen. Okay, he doesn't want his question. Okay, Aditi. Aditi, her question, is it in the spiritual development always necessary to go through ego and personal pain? Is it always necessary?
It's not a case of necessity. It is ego that's going through this. The ego has started it, and the ego is going through it. And the ego is like a thief. The ego doesn't want to be caught by the police. So the ego will try to escape. So there will be pain because the ego puts up a resistance. That's what I was telling him. Your mind is putting up a resistance. It doesn't want to get destroyed. The thief doesn't want to be caught by the police. So he will make effort not to get caught by the police. So the mind will create pain, suffering, this and that, so that you feel tempted. Okay, I started the spiritual life and there's only suffering now. The suffering has become more intense. So let me not go to the spiritual life at all. That's what the mind wants. It wants to tempt you back into the world. The mind doesn't want to die. But only when the mind dies, the ego dies. The mind is the ego. Yogi Ramsuratkumar used to say, Papa Ramdas initiated this beggar into Ramna, and he gave one instruction which went into this beggar like a dagger. So it was Ramanama and Ramabana. Ramabana is the killer arrow of Sri Rama, which never missed its target. So he said, there, the Bana. So Bhagwan went into a cave and he started to chant. He was chanting, and then he told me, not that this beggar could do it all the 24 hours as Papa Ramdas instructed, but this beggar was trying and trying and trying. So in trying, you will come across so much pain. You understand what I mean? The pain is the resistance put up by the mind. The pain comes there because of your past karmas. The experiences of your past lives will settle down as tendencies. Those tendencies inside, the tendency to question, the tendencies to relax, the tendency, you want to come back to your room and relax. Why should I do this meditation? I can do this meditation later on. I can do some chanting later on. I can now just sleep nicely. I can eat something nicely and make merry. You postpone. All that is part of the resistance. So it will be very painful. If you have to keep awake and do the sadhana all through the night, it's painful to the body, to the mind. So the pathway is painful. The sadhana is painful. You have to start from the ego only. And the ego is trying to resist. It will be painful. But ask her not to mind this pain, not to stay put in the pain, must come out.
Dagegen anzukämpfen, sondern in den Schmerz zu akzeptieren und zu bleiben.
So I should not fight against the pain, I just should stay in the pain.
That's why I'm saying accept it. Accept it as a blessing. There is some good in it, you do not know now, but it's coming from God and it's good for me. So just put up with it patiently and you will see how the whole thing turns into a blessing. Everything is a blessing. God gives it to you for some reason, but you will progress spiritually. Okay.
Okay, Arjuna. His question, I often have the feeling that everything happens against me. Then I feel lonely, hopeless, and frustrated. How can I find the trust to see God in everything that happens?
Suppose some examination was approaching in school or college. How did you get around that? Then you get the fear of examination and then you pray and then you cross that, right? In any adverse situation, we pray like that. Here also, only prayer. Why prayer? Because when we pray, we are begging. And when we are begging, our ego is at its lowest. Right? To the extent you are less egoistic, to that extent grace enters. What is ego? Selfishness. Self-fear. So, the thing is, when you pray to God, you admit you are helpless. And say, God, please, your grace, your power alone can solve this. Please bless me, save me from this. Then your pleading will be heard. And the grace enters. Only grace can solve the problems. The grace works through your intellect, then you get the right idea. It works through your heart and somebody is kind enough to come and help you out. The grace can influence anything or anybody to solve your problem. But grace is what we need. And for that, you have to beg. A beggar, he needs food because he's hungry. He goes and stands before some houses. He says, in a very pitiable voice, please give me something to eat. So it may melt the heart of someone in the house and they may come and drop something. This begging we have to do to God, who is all powerful. And it is by His will everything happens. So you are appealing to the very power which created a trouble for you. So if you want to set it right, you appeal to the same power. This is my way, and this has always been successful. You are reasoning out, you will come across a situation, and the next minute the situation will change because your karma is behind. Whereas when you pray, your karma, the effect of your karma will lessen. But your assertive ego thinks up a solution, it may not lessen your suffering. Now you read the question once again, so I can say it in his language.
I often have the feeling that everything happens against me. Then I feel lonely, hopeless and frustrated.
Okay. So, nothing is happening against you. But your mind imagines that everything is happening deliberately against you. Right? Now, nobody is planning any conspiracy against you. Your own karma is behind it. You understand? Your past karma is behind it, creating this effect upon your mind and also in life. So to get rid of this idea that some things are happening deliberately against me, you have to get rid of this thought. And the alternative is, okay, even this is happening by the will of God, by the grace of God, so this is a blessing. This blessing is going to help me. That is surrender. Acceptance, and acceptance will be very reluctant in the beginning, but then it will turn out to cheerful surrender later. So instead of looking at it negatively, think that this is happening by the grace of God. This is also grace. This is also a blessing to me. Accept it. And then see how you feel. You can see it turning into a blessing. But you have to practice this. As I said, the minute you know it was only a rope, the fear drops. As long as you imagine a snake in the rope, you fear the snake. But once you know the snake, it is not the snake, it's only a rope, the fear leaves that moment. So once you know that this is also a blessing to help you progress, you have to go through this pain, and this pain, going through this pain is a progress. It's a blessing. Then you will start looking upon it as a blessing, and then it will turn into a blessing. It is already a blessing, you just don't recognize it. You imagine a snake in the rope. Think that everything comes from God. So even this negativity is coming from God. Will God do harm to you? He is our well-wisher. So for some reason, this is happening, and you think it's against you. It appears to be against you, but it's only your attitude. The truth may not be that. See, for example, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, when we pray to him for something, it happens immediately. Sometimes when we pray to him, it takes a long time, but then it happens. Sometimes, no matter how much you pray, it doesn't happen. But all the three are grace. So you pray, it happens immediately, and you say, oh, God is such a beautiful being. He is full of, grace. And then sometimes you have a longer wait, but at the end of which, whatever happens will be a greater blessing. You would not have got it if you got it immediately. So the wait helps for a greater blessing. The third, we pray and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen because if it happens, it will be harmful to you. You understand? The child is attracted by the fire, and then it wants to go and play with it. What does the mother do? No, don't go, it's fire. No, I will go. And then, after the mother leaves the place, the child may put its hand into the fire and then suffer, and then learn. Or the mother will give a beating. And afraid of the mother, it won't go near. There are two ways. So, what you are imagining that things are happening against you, it means it's bad time for you, and the bad time happens because of some bad karma, because in the past you had done something against somebody's will and they had suffered. So now things happen that way. But remember, this is also coming from God. So you pray to Him and you see Him as coming from God, and therefore a blessing, it will turn into a blessing. You understand what I mean? Right. No matter how many times I say it, I'll be saying the same thing.
I would like to report something.
Yeah.
This is really working. You notice I'm not going to the toilet after 2.5 hours, and I'm playing a game. When I see that nothing is happening and no feeling is there, I'm drinking more water, and still nothing happens.
Good. It is grace. It's grace of God, really. Everything is grace. There is only grace. It's just that we don't recognize it for what it is. We imagine things and suffer. The truth is, everything is auspicious, everything is a gain, everything is grace. Right?
Do you want another question?
Yes, 10 minutes more.
10 minutes more. Okay,
1:30
Lavanya.
you people go for your food.
Okay, Lavanya.
You chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar, right? And see what happens. And pray to him. Chant Yogi Ramsuratkumar and pray.
This is Lavanya. Could it be that the feeling that pain triggers inside is similar to the feeling that love triggers inside? Pain and love. It seems to me as if they are moving towards each other in order to merge at some wonderful day.
Merge in God. Okay. Good. So you have found out yourself. If you can see the pain as something that will push you towards God further, it's a blessing. Accept it. Don't think it's pain, think that it's a blessing. That's all. Okay, good. It's a blessing. It's a definite blessing, and it will reveal how it is a blessing sooner or later. Okay. Because so many lives we had lived already and collected lots of tendencies, impressions, and we are born with that. And they will be working inside and they will project it as pain. But in truth, it's a blessing. Yes?
Valentine. It's hard for me to accept that everything is predetermined in my life. Do you have an advice for me how to surrender to that?
The whole sadhana is only about that. Our chanting the name, our meditating on God. Unless, the ego thinks, the ego has a will of its own, and you call it free will in ignorance, right? But people like Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Ramana Bhagwan, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, they tell you that there is only one will at work, and that is divine will, and therefore everything is a blessing, right? So when you don't have an experience of your own, you listen to people who have experienced it. For example, you want to go to London, and it's very new to you, the pathway. So then you find somebody who's gone to London several times, and you take guidance from them. So these great people have traveled, journeyed through the path, and they have come out with the truths that they have found. So we have to take guidance from them. Right? And the guidance is, ultimately you have to surrender to the will of God. So, in the beginning itself, you think that everything is willed by God, so it's better to say yes and surrender. Ramana Bhagwan, he was only 16, 17 years. He had run away from home. And then he found out, who am I? And he began to stay in Samadhi. So he was sitting there, it's called Pavala Kundru. There is a small hill connected to Arunachala Shiva. And he was sitting there, a 16-year-old boy with only a loin cloth and sitting like a rock, completely in Samadhi. His mother, she found out that her son was here, and then she traveled all the way, and then she climbed up the mountain, went to him, started crying so much, saying, look, come home. I will see that you are not disturbed in your tapasya. Please come home. Don't stay here like this. But Ramana Bhagwan would not answer, would not reply at all. He just sat through that like a rock. And then she would stay by his side, keep on crying, and when the evening came, she would return. And the next day again, she would start climbing, crying, and then she would come and appeal to him, request him, pray to him, but Ramana Bhagwan would not answer and sit like a rock. 3 days it happened. The third day, again she was climbing, and she cried, and some of the villagers who were watching this said, see, she's your mother. She gave birth to you. She deserves some reply from you. Please say something to her. Even then, Ramana Bhagwan would not open his mouth. He wrote, you know what he wrote? According to each one's karmic account, according to each one's good karmas and bad karmas of the past lives, wherever we go, the karma will play up. Accordingly, we go through the joys and sorrows of life. It is the divine that is doing it to us. So whatever is meant to happen will happen, no matter what. Whatever is not meant to happen will not happen, no matter how much you try. So the best course of action is to accept it. Accepting is, okay, it's given by the divine, it's a blessing to me, blessing for my progress towards God, so let me go through it. So once you accept it as a blessing, the miracle happens. It will turn into a blessing, and you will know what good it has done to you in your path. This is Ramana Bhagwan's statement. Whatever is meant to happen will happen because it's your karma. Be it a joy or sorrow. Whatever is not meant to happen will not happen, no matter how much you try. So the best course of action is to keep silence. And silence is acceptance.
One more, or Kali?
This is the last one?
We've done about half now.
Oh.
You're very popular. So Kali,
please know that whatever I say is what he taught me. Yogi Ramsuratkumar is behind it. I cannot claim any merit. I'm as ignorant as you are. Yes.
Okay. Kali's question, how to stay connected to the self, to God, when there is a strong tendency to forget and identify with the body and person.
It's everybody's problem. The most common problem. Somebody came and said to Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Swami, I try to remember God, I try to chant the name, but after some time the mind wanders. So I stop chanting. I keep forgetting God. So what do we do? Then Bhagwan asked him, do you eat? Yes, I eat. Why? I feel hungry, I have to eat. So eating is important. Okay, do you sleep? Yes. Why? Because sleep comes and sleeping is important for my health. So you think that eating is important, sleeping is important. You don't think chanting is important. That's why you are not chanting. You understand? Eating is health for the body. Sleeping is health for the body. Chanting is much more health for the body, the mind and intellect. But we don't think it's important. If you give equal importance to chanting or remembering God, then you will remember. It's just that you don't think it is as important as other things of life which you are doing. Right? So you have to know that remembering God is even more important than your eating and sleeping and making merry or whatever. You understand? So you have to get this idea into the depth of your heart that remembering God is even more important than other things of life. Bring it to your mind again and again and again. That is why chanting the name is important. Even if you don't feel any devotion or concentration or faith, you can still keep chanting, chanting, chanting. Quantity. The quantity will bring in quality. So initially quantity matters. So it doesn't matter, you just keep chanting the name of God again and again and again. Make it a habit. Once you have a counter or a mala in hand, you will just go on doing it. You don't need devotion for that. You don't need concentration for that. You don't need faith for that. Just keep chanting the name. The Nama will do the rest. Will bring in everything. Right? Try. It is as important as your, what do they call it? Breathing. Remembering God is as important as breathing the air. Either we don't know it or we don't think about it. The thing is, they all have further questions to ask, but there's no time. So.
You'd like to stop now, or?
1:30, no? That you people have to eat. Because those people in the kitchen, the workers will be waiting.
Okay.
So it's better to wind up now, and we can meet if you want.
We always want to meet you.
Like, okay. So what time? We can meet at 4:30 again.
Okay.
Right? So now you eat, and then as soon as you put some food in the stomach, you will feel like sleeping, resting. And the mind won't be so active, you know. So it's better go and rest, and then we will meet again at 4:30.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, 1 minute. I have to know whether at 4:30 anyone else is coming.
Anyway, it's okay. If we can't come, we could come another day, as you like.
So that will be better, I think.
Yeah.
Today we'll wind up, and then I will tell you another day before you leave.
Okay. Okay.
As tomorrow, if there is nothing tomorrow, then we can meet. Otherwise, 29th I have, 30th I have, and tomorrow I am not sure. And we shall see. We shall work it out.
As is possible.
Today I think it's enough. It's heavy already, you know. Not for me, but we have been going through it so much. It's better to remember. You know, listening to it is one yoga. It's called a Shravana yoga. And then the next thing is bringing it to mind. Whatever you listen to in Satsang, bring to the mind again and again and again until it gets inside deeply. That's called Manana yoga. So we all have to do Manana yoga. You become mindful, the mindfulness, you know, it's very important. Whatever you learnt in Satsang, you have to remember again and again and think over it. That's also contemplative meditation. Okay, Yogi Ramsuratkumar.
सार्वभौम सर्वेश योगी राम सूरत कुमार सार्वभौम सर्वेश योगी राम सूरत कुमार सर्वनाम सर्वरूप योगी